In this video, I'm talking all about music videos, and more precisely, my top tips for anyone looking to shoot a no budget or a low budget music video. So let's get into it. So my first tip to you if you're shooting a low budget or a no budget music video is to be realistic and do not make life difficult for yourself. Believe me, as creatives, it's very easy to hear the track and think this needs to be filmed on top of a skyscraper on a helipad with a drone circling the artist. It's a great idea and it would look incredible, but if there's no budget and you don't know anyone, then unfortunately that's just not going to be possible. And I'm not saying think small, think big, but also think realistic. If you know somebody that has access to a helipad and you wanted this specific shot in your music video and you feel like you could barter with them to get this location for free, then that's incredible. Absolutely go for it because that would look so cool. But if you don't have access to people and you don't have access to this specific thing that you're trying to write in and there's no budget for it, then don't sell the artist on a specific concept that you're just going to stress yourself over to try and make happen. So my first tip is to think big, but also think realistic. What's possible on your budget and with your resources? Talking about making life hard for yourself, one of the things that I always see on low or no budget music videos is overstuffing the schedule. It's tempting to say that you can shoot 27 scenes in one day, but realistically, stop and ask yourself, are you going to be able to? Because if you can't, then you're just going to get stressed, you're going to be rushed on the set, that's going to make for a really horrible work environment, and you're probably going to make mistakes which will affect the end product. So be realistic with your schedule and make sure that you add enough time for each scene. And I'd also advise to allow a little bit of extra time. So if you think it will take 1 hour to shoot a scene, add another half an hour onto that, because chances are something might go wrong. Someone might not turn up, equipment might not be working properly, or there might be problems with the location. So give yourself the time that you need and then give yourself a little bit of safety time. You'll thank yourself for it later on. Now, one of the problems that I always see as well, and this always goes back to making life more difficult for yourself, is I always see directors or producers of low or no budget music videos shooting in locations where there's limited or no light. Shooting in a rundown building or under a bridge, for example, it might sound like a good idea, but the problem is the sensor in your camera isn't going to get enough light, and that means all of your footage is going to be underexposed, which means when you boost this up in the edit, all of your footage is going to be noisy, grainy, and underexposed. So my next tip is to shoot in a location that has a vast amount of natural light. Of course, you can always bring in light and shape lights to create depth and character into your scene, but chances are if you're on a no or low budget music video, then access to light is probably a no-go. So yes, that graffiti tunnel, that rundown derelict building, that bridge, it might look really good to the naked eye, but the problem is if it doesn't look good on camera, then unfortunately you're just going to get amateur footage. So don't make life hard for yourself. Don't shoot in these difficult, awkward environments. Shoot in a location that has an abundance of natural light, because then you're going to get the correct amount of light into the camera sensor. And you can always use techniques like negative fill to shape lighting to create really awesome and interesting depth and character into your scenes, whilst also maintaining that exposure level in your camera. My next tip is to be creative and unique with your concept. Now that does sound slightly hypocritical because I just told you to be realistic with your concept, but just because you're being realistic doesn't mean you have to be predictable. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've seen a music video of somebody rapping or singing in a car park with a car parked behind them and their headlights shining at the camera. It's predictable, it's boring, everyone's seen it, and you're not creating anything unique. So take the time to craft a really interesting and creative music video treatment, because I promise you that will make for a much more interesting and much more engaging music video. Now my next tip is to look at the background. It's important that you're shooting in a great location and it's important that the artist is doing what they need to be doing, but if you've got people wandering around in the background, or if you've got somebody taking their dog to the park in the back of your shot, it just makes your video seem so much less professional. Now, if your concept forces you to be in a busy area like a park or a high street, for example, then just try your very best to angle your subjects in a way where you're not seeing people in the back of the shot. If you do this with a smile and you're really nice, then you can actually ask people to just step away and stop them from walking into your shot if it is going to ruin a particular take. But of course, if you are filming in a public space, then you have to make sure that the public has the right of way. And unfortunately, if they do walk into your shot, then it is going to ruin the shot, but unfortunately there's not a lot that you can do about it. The best way to avoid this is to shoot in a quiet location, so you can either rent a location or shoot somewhere that isn't as public. Now, renting locations can cost you money and they can actually be really expensive. But if you know a friend of a friend who happens to own a warehouse, a garage, a garden that looks really great, you can speak to them, see if you can get the location for free, and that will instantly reduce the chance of people being in the back of your shot, and you're going to get this great location that will help to take your video to the next level. Now, my next tip is to have a contingency plan in case all goes wrong. Now, unfortunately, something will go wrong on your music video. It's pretty much guaranteed to happen, whether that be an actor not turning up, the location having difficulties with their power, your camera batteries being completely uncharged, something will go wrong. But if you have a contingency plan in place, then you can carry on filming and you can carry on production without too much hassle and without too much stress. So maybe your concept is flexible and you can take that actor out and it won't change the concept too much. Maybe you have a backup location in case your first one goes wrong. You can have backup batteries and power for your camera. Just make sure that you've always got a plan B, because when plan A fails, you can always fall back onto plan B and continue production. Unfortunately, I had to learn this lesson the hard way. Back in 2012, I filmed a music video and I had 20 people planned to turn up to shoot this big paint powder scene. It was going to look amazing, but the problem is only 5 people actually ended up turning up. Now, I was still able to shoot something on the day and the video ended up turning out great, but if I had a contingency plan in place or an alternative concept, then I could have just quickly turned to that alternative concept when I realized that most people weren't going to turn up to this shoot and filmed a video better than the one that I actually ended up filming. I think there's a saying, fail to prepare and you're going to have to prepare to fail. And that's the same thing with music videos. If you don't have that contingency plan in place, something will go wrong. So make sure you're prepared. And then lastly, I want you to really think about lighting and your color palette. It's amazing that you've got a concept and everybody's turned up and you've got a great location for next to no money and you've got a variety of different performance takes and the music video is going to be great. But if you don't think about color, lighting and your color palette in general, then unfortunately this music video just might be a bit flat and it just won't look very cinematic. Now let's start with lighting. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, you don't have to spend hundreds of pounds on really expensive lighting, but just adding a little bit of light into your video can go such a long way. Even if you're not using actual lights, let's say you're using natural lights, if you're filming in a location that has windows, if you angle somebody away from the window and then shoot on the dark side of their face, you're going to get this really intense cinematic shot, and that is a really easy way of creating depth and character within your scene using lighting. But if you do happen to have access to lighting, then you can use colored gels to change the colors of your lighting, and using color within your video is a great way of tying the music video to the artist's branding, but it's also a great way of creating a color theme within the video, and that's going to tie all of the performances together. So let's say blue and pink are the colors that you want to focus on for the music video. If you use those colors to theme all of your performance shots, it means everything is going to have a specific look, and that means when you're chopping from one shot to another, it's not going to feel jarring and it's going to feel like it's unified and you've created this theme. And there you go, those are my top tips for shooting a low or no budget music video. Now, just because you don't have a big budget doesn't mean that you have to settle for a poor video. Be creative, be prepared, follow all of these tips that I've mentioned in this video, and I promise you your next music video that has a low or no budget is going to look great. Understanding these fundamentals can go a really long way in your career, because once you understand how to create a great video with a small budget, you can take those same techniques from your low budget into your high budget music videos, and you're just going to be able to keep creating awesome content regardless of how much is being put into the video. And there you go. Thank you ever so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate your support, and hopefully I will see you on the next video. See you there.